In the late 90s, when I was a teenager, there was a show on the WB network called Seventh Heaven. Does anyone else remember this show? It's all right if you don't, but man, it was like a quintessential family drama of the 90s. There was a pastor dad, a loving mom, and 7 kids, and every episode had it all. Some tricky moral dilemma, of course, a wacky misunderstanding between the characters, a dramatic moment featuring one of the kids needing to make a tough, really tough choice between right and wrong. And there was always a satisfying ending that typically featured the pastor dad, Reverend Eric Camden, giving a loving speech to the rest of his family. Now, I'll be the first to admit it was not a perfect show. The writing was a bit heavy-handed, to say the least. The family was a little too squeaky clean, and it crossed the corny line almost every dang episode. But I'll tell you what, I love that show. I mean, I absolutely loved it. And there is one thing from Seventh Heaven that will always stick with me. And in this little 5-minute-ish sermon, I want to talk about that one big idea from Seventh Heaven. And I want to share some inspiration I found in the Bible, in Paul's letter to the first century Jewish Christians in what's called the book of Hebrews. But before I do any of that, let me say this. Welcome to Between, the most open church on earth. My name is Matt Matson, and I want to be your host here at Between. Now, you're going to hear from a lot of other voices. You're going to meet a lot of brilliant people, and you'll get to connect with folks from all over the world. I'm just the host. And hosting is what this message is really all about. Between isn't really what most people think of as a church. Our church exists in the space between you and every person you encounter this week. The space between us is sacred. At Between, we welcome and affirm absolutely everyone. No matter your background, no matter your faith tradition, no matter what you've done, who you love, where you come from, what you believe, if you believe, or what anyone else has told you about yourself. You are welcome here. I'm really honored to have a chance to host you. Okay, back to Seventh Heaven. Remember, this is a family with 7 kids living in the house. It's crowded, it's loud, it's full of drama. But multiple times over the course of the 10 seasons that Seventh Heaven aired, one of the major recurring plot points that repeatedly shows up is this. Some teenage friend or acquaintance, or even like a stranger that one of the family members just met, is in some kind of trouble. And they need someplace to live for a while. Like they actually need a real place to live. And this happens over and over and over on the show. And the Camden's door is always open, always. Reverend Camden and his family were always willing to just completely avail their home to pretty much anyone with unconditional love and support. Imagine being that kind of host. Of course, many of us don't have to imagine. We know people like the Camdens. I'll bet you've got some Camdens in your life. For instance, my in-laws are like the Camdens, literally. They've let multiple people who needed some help of one sort or another just live with them for a while. They are incredible, loving hosts. My buddy Josh and his family, they're like the Camdens. They've designed their whole home and their whole life around being a gracious and welcoming host. They're centering that idea in the heart of their family's legacy. I'll bet you know someone like the Camdens too. Ultimate hosts. I'll be honest, I always really admired Reverend Camden. I wanted to be like him. I wanted to always have a pithy and powerful speech to give to my kids at the end of an episode of their lives, when it was time to learn an important life lesson. And I want to be a great host. So there's a line from the 13th chapter of the book of Hebrews that reads, "Do not neglect to show hospitality to strangers, for thereby some have entertained angels unawares." A great host shows hospitality to everyone always. Because after all, you might be entertaining an angel, a messenger from God, without even knowing it. I think this is our calling. We're called to host everyone we encounter. How can you be like the corny Camden family and, if not literally, figuratively, open your heart and your life to every person you encounter? A great host is welcoming. A great host is curious about your life and your needs. A great host sees the best in everyone. A great host makes you so comfortable you can't help but open up and be authentic around them. I hope to be your host here at Between. And I hope you find ways to host both strangers and loved ones in your life this week. Every room, every conversation, every encounter. Every meeting, every group, every line at every coffee shop, every dinner table, every kid who walks in the door after school, every aging loved one who misses you, every neighborhood, every classroom, every office, they all need a host, a warm and gracious host, a host who treats everyone as though they might be an angel from heaven. Will you join me in the spirit of prayer? Today, I pray to be hospitable, to be a gentle wave that beckons everyone to enter into a sanctuary of the peace and comfort I'm called to provide. I pray that I will remember to listen closely for their needs and joys and pains, and that I will serve them generous portions of grace and hope until their souls are full. And that I will channel the love and light and energy of you, God, into my work as a host. May I have the presence and spirit to be the host I've been sent to be. Amen. Between is about you. Take this message into your life this week. Fill the space between you and other people with your sacred light. My favorite church is the space between people. Now go with God's love and create the church between.